This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Welcome back onto the Morning Majlis, and we're talking about the publishing sector here. And we're talking about the International Publishers Association President, Her Excellency Sheikha Bodour Al Qassimi's visit to Abidjan, Ivory Coast, as she has encouraged Ivory Coast's publishers to remodel their businesses as part of an IPA drive to rebuild publishing as a more resilient and sustainable sector. So Her Excellency's visit or meeting in Abidjan, she met meeting members of the Ivory Coast Publishers Association to discuss their current challenges that they're facing and ways book publishers can adapt to new industry dynamics. Now, the publishers briefed the IPA President on how COVID-19 had brought their national industry to its knees, basically, sending book sales through the floor due to stringent virus containment measures such as school closures and cancellations of book fairs. Now, rethinking business models will be paramount to the survival of Africa's book sector, where a near total reliance on textbook production leaves it kind of vulnerable. In addition to that, more African governments are entering the educational publishing arena, and remote education is obviously fast becoming the norm for all of us, not just in Africa.
Indeed, and President of the IPA also said, Bodour Al Qassimi, she said, lasting solutions to Africa's publishing, literacy, and book accessibility challenges will require African ownership, African innovation, and African energy. While these are very testing times for publishers, this is also an opportunity to think big and to design new business models and strategies with a focus on international as well as national markets. And in Abidjan, Al Qassimi also met Albert Nsigio Muava, Executive Secretary of the Association of the Development of Education in Africa, to explore potential collaborations to champion quality, inclusive education across the continent, and much more.
Yep, and the visit to Ivory Coast is the third leg of Her Excellency Sheikha Bodour's visits to the continent, because it was followed by visits, or it follows visits to Egypt and Kenya. At each of these stops, Her Excellency Sheikha Bodour has gathered frontline market intelligence from the National Publishers Association and listened to their fears about the deep socio-economic uncertainty. Her Excellency also presented IPA's 2021 vision to develop effective research-based strategies to regenerate global publishing as a resilient, future-proof sector. This will entail engineering's robust business ecosystems within which thriving publishers can enhance their essential contribution towards education, social development, and knowledge economies as well. So a very, very fruitful visit to Ivory Coast. And with that, we'll take a bit of a break here on the Morning Majlis. Up next, we're going to be talking a little bit more about IDEX and other local developments, a big exhibition taking place for the defence industry in the nation's capital, Abu Dhabi. So do stay tuned to Pulse 95. We'll be right back after some more musical entertainment.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95, and a very warm welcome back onto the Morning Majlis. Now, 5 billion dirhams worth of deals have been signed at the 15th International Defence Exhibition that is taking place at the Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Centre. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, was welcoming senior government representatives, defence ministers and deputy ministers across the globe, particularly Edward Lister, the Special Envoy for British Prime Minister for the Gulf. We've also seen the senior military advisor for the Middle Eastern region, and we've seen the defense ministers of Greece also joining the IDEX exhibition. So lots of important meetings were held yesterday. So all of those responsible for the defense sector, or most of those senior delegates, were certainly taking part in what is a very, very high-profile defense expo. And looking at the types of deals that were signed just goes to show how important this event was.
It is actually out of the 19 contracts worth over 5 billion dirhams, as many as 12 were secured by local companies. The official spokespersons at a press conference actually noted that 3.93 billion dirhams worth deals were inked by only local firms, and over 1 billion dirhams by overseas companies. Now, Abu Dhabi-based Calidus, a technology development and manufacturing company, actually clinched deals worth 1.697 billion dirhams to buy 12 B250 jets. The International Golden Group got deal with or worth 689 million dirhams. Global Aerospace Logistics got the deal of 410 million dirhams. Maximus Air got 293 million dirhams. Al Mas'ud 250 million dirhams. Nimmer Company also got 230 million dirhams worth of a deal. AMMROC got a deal 175 million dirhams. Etihad Shipbuilding also got 60 million dirhams worth of a deal. Wolf Spain as well, 51 million dirhams. And Bin Halal also got 45 million, and Al Fattan got 35 million dirhams. That's just to give you the more details on the deals itself. Meanwhile, 7 overseas companies also got multiple deals. But this 5-day mega exhibition is organized by the Abu Dhabi National Exhibitions Company in cooperation with the Ministry of Defense and the General Command of the UAE Armed Forces. And our very own Abdul Karim has actually been to one, maybe you've been to it before?
I've been
twice?
Twice I've been.
To IDEX?
To IDEX. It is... I've always described it as a toy store for people who love the military equipment. For example, there's lots of people, and it's a very, very high-profile event. Just given by especially the opening ceremony. Ceremony was always a class act to witness, because they'll have the simulation of a potential. Let's say a conflict, and then they'll showcase some of these technologies over there, and the sheer scale of the levels of the different generals and different military heads that would be attending. It just went on to show that you're at an event that is extremely important. And yes, there are massive defense exhibitions in Las Vegas, for example, and other parts of the globe, but this one here in Abu Dhabi is so special. And given the amount of security that was always involved, we had to send our documents as journalists months before, and then when we would turn up to the events, we could see the level of security checks they had. You just felt like, whoa, I'm walking into something quite intense. And no, it's a great exhibition to have been part of, and kind of sad that I'm not there this year, but it's okay. Let others have the fun now.
It's absolutely incredible as well. I mean, looking at the pictures, you could see some real cutting-edge technology and products and equipment, and that's what the event facilitates and showcases. Companies and countries from all around the world showcasing what they have as far as military defense technology as well. And it's also great that we had an event here in the country that is organized in such a timely fashion. The level of global participation is incredible here as well, and shows the UAE's ability and efficiency in organizing global events at all times, despite the circumstances that we are dealing with as well. And this exhibition is very important. It plays a key role in promoting partnerships and establishing relations between countries. And also, the defense industry is a key component of the UAE's sustainable development. And that's really underscores the importance of this event, IDEX.
Yep, and there certainly is, and given the amount of deals that are going to be signed today as well, so we'll keep you posted about them for sure. Time now for us to prepare for the world of sports headlines. We shall continue the discussions here on the Morning Majlis right after that. And from one prominent event, we're moving on to one prominent plane maker. And they've released a statement about a bit of an incident that took place yesterday. So stay with us. This is the Morning Majlis on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Pretty alarming incident that happened on a United Airlines flight. A Boeing 777 suffered an uncontained engine failure as it climbed out of Denver en route to Honolulu, Hawaii, and witnesses on the ground reported hearing an explosion before debris rained down on the town of Broomfield, Colorado. The pilot declared Mayday and returned to Denver without further incident, so the plane was able to land safely. But now United Airlines is saying it's grounding 24 of the Boeing 777 aircrafts after the engine failure that occurred.
Yeah, and it is worrying, isn't it? Now, what we're seeing is Boeing has recommended all airlines to suspend the use of the 777s. Boeing said 69 of the planes were in service and 59 were in storage at a time when airlines have grounded planes due to a plunge in demand associated with the pandemic. The manufacturer recommended airlines suspended operations until the U.S. regulators identified the appropriate inspection protocol. Now, this includes the 777-200s and 777-300s. Affected are older and less fuel efficient than the newer models, and most operators are phasing them out of their fleets. Now, over Broomfield in Colorado, the images posted by police showed a significant amount of plane debris on the ground, including an engine cowling scattered outside a home and what appeared to be other parts in a field. The NTSB say it's going to be examining it further.
Yeah, and the engines of this Boeing 777 plane are blowing up with worrisome frequency. This is not the first time this kind of thing happened. Back in 2018, the right engine of a United Airlines 777 experienced a catastrophic failure. Fan blade broke and caused the engine's cover to blow off. And same thing in this situation, flying debris was everywhere. However, the plane was able to land safely. Now, going back to last December, 2020, a Japan Airlines 777 suffered a similar engine failure. The plane, too, landed safely. And in all three cases, the airplanes were among the oldest in the worldwide 777 fleet, having been delivered in the first 2 years after the model was introduced back in 1995. The other thing these planes have in common is they have the Pratt & Whitney PW4000 engine, and these engines are as old as the planes themselves. In fact, in the 2018 Japan incident, an engine that failed had been built back in 96, had accumulated just under 78,000 flight hours. And the blade that failed in the December incident in Japan experienced 43,000 flight hours as well. So pretty old planes, pretty old engines, but a lot of concern because when you have a pattern in aircraft accidents, that's a big sign of trouble. It's not just a one-off thing. I mean, what we saw, for instance, back in October 2018 with the 737 MAX plane, which was brand new at the time, crashed once, raised a lot of eyebrows. But when another one crashed 4 months later, it led to the realization that the plane's autopilot had been dangerously misengineered. So what exactly caused the engines on the Boeing 777 to fail? Well, according to experts, the inspection process was not up to par. And this comes from the engine developer themselves. The P&W engine makers have an inspection process in place. And a report conducted by experts in July 2020 states that there were numerous faults with that inspection process as well, that it failed to detect failures in the PW4000 fan blades, and that these failures in inspecting the state of the engines is what probably caused those recent accidents to occur. So that's definitely what's raising eyebrows at the moment, that the planes were not thoroughly certified and inspected properly, and that caused this engine failure. And really, echoes what happened with the 737 MAX, where experts also said that the inspection process was mightily flawed as well.
That's right. Jet engine failures do not happen often, but they can be caused by a rotating part, such as a turbine blade breaking off and piercing the outer cowling as well. But this plane, a Boeing 777-200, it was manufactured 26 years ago. And also on the same day as the Denver incident, an engine failure on a 30-year-old Boeing 747 freighter saw debris also fall on a town in the Netherlands. And part of what appeared to be turbine blades landed on the town of Meersen. 2 people on the ground, 1 a child, were slightly injured. But the aircraft, which had left Maastricht bound for New York, landed safely in Liege in neighboring Belgium.
And just to piggyback on the inspection process as well, because I'm looking at what the report is stating, they classified various technologies as new, and when they were training people to inspect these engines, they had 40 hours of on-the-job training. And in comparison, the certification requirement for other inspectors are in the thousands as well. So the fact that they had this minimal training to inspect these newly developed engines was cause for concern. And in result of all this, in Japan, all 777s with the Pratt & Whitney 4000 model engines in particular are to avoid its airspace until further notice. So it looks like the engine itself is the big problem here.
The engine certainly is, and it's going to be worrying times for Boeing and for most of these airlines that now that they have to be suspending some flights as a result of this and temporarily halting. United said earlier in the day that it was temporarily halting all flights from its 24 777s with the PW4000 engine as well. And now the FAA is going to be identifying the appropriate inspection protocol for this scenario. What we're facing as a scenario is going to be a bit of a break. We shall return back on the morning Majlis right after some more musical entertainment, and when we do return, we're going to be talking a little bit more about other international developments, and it is in Myanmar. What's going on? All of this will be discussed right here on the morning Majlis.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Everybody, welcome back to the program, and we're discussing the state of Myanmar now that protests have been erupting across the country following a recent military coup. What is happening?
Well, now businesses shut in Myanmar today in a general strike called to oppose the military coup, and thousands of protesters gathered despite a threat from the authorities that confrontation could cost lives. Yes, 3 weeks after seizing the power, the junta has failed to stop daily protests and a civil disobedience movement calling for the reversal of the Feb 1 coup and release of elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Now they're saying that everyone is joining this. This is what they're saying, the protesters. And they said, we need to come out, we need to do this, and we need to protest. This is in a country where dates are seen as auspicious. Protesters noted the significance of the date of today. It's February, like it's 2021, comparing it to demonstrations on August 8th, 1988, when a previous generation staged anti-military protests which were bloodily suppressed. So the response of security forces this time has been less deadly, but at least 3 protesters have now been killed after 2 were shot dead in the second city of Mandalay on Saturday. And 1 policeman died of injuries in the protests as well.
Local stores, international chains also announced closures today, including KFC and delivery service Food Panda. So that's just goes to show of how intense things are. Southeast Asian company Grab has also stopped delivery services too, but left its taxis running though. Authorities are exercising the utmost restraint, according to the Foreign Ministry's statement, and they have been saying that foreign countries, describing foreign countries' remarks and cautions as flagrant interference in Myanmar's internal affairs. Several Western countries have condemned this coup and decried the violence against protesters. So lots of people and lots of countries having their say on the matter.
Indeed, and Myanmar, a country that had long been ruled by the military, in fact, from 1962 until 2011, when a new government began ushering in a return to civilian rule. That has now changed. The military is back in charge, declaring a year-long state of emergency following their seizure of control back in Feb 1st, following a general election which Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party won by a landslide. The armed forces had backed the opposition, who were demanding a rerun of the vote, claiming widespread fraud. And the coup was staged as a new session of parliament was set to open. We've got major protests erupting in the country, some of the biggest, in fact, in its history, and the biggest since the so-called Saffron Revolution back in 2007, when thousands of the country's monks rose up against the military regime. The makeup of the protesters is quite diverse this time around. It includes teachers, lawyers, students, bank officers, and government workers as well. As a result, the military has imposed restrictions in some areas, including curfews and limits to gatherings.
Yeah, and that's going to continue, really, in terms of what's going to be happening in the country and how the world responds to it. The army seized power after those the 8th of November elections, saying there was alleged fraud, and they have promised handovers back to a democratic transition, but I think within Myanmar itself and internationally, the trust levels might be quite low at this stage. But when the army did take over, they did say that their mandate is there for 1 year. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
and as for foreign interference, France, Singapore, Britain, and Germany, they condemned the violence, while UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said lethal force was unacceptable. The United States, Britain, and others have also announced limited sanctions focusing on military leaders, but the generals, they have long shrugged off foreign pressure. But yeah, as for now, Suu Kyi faces a charge of violating a natural disaster management law, as well as illegally importing 6 walkie-talkie radios. So her next court appearance is going to be on March 1st.
Yeah, and the U.S. is also threatening more sanctions, saying if there is more violence against peaceful protesters, the Burmese military will find that today's sanctions are just the first. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen issuing a warning. Also, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, saying the U.S. will keep up, quote, firm action against Myanmar authorities violently cracking down on opponents of this military coup. We'll keep you posted on this particular story as it unfolds and develops throughout the week. And we've got more headlines to discuss later on this program on the Morning Majlis. Stay tuned for those discussions and much more right here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.